We're in the middle of an AI gold rush in almost every part of our world. Every day, it seems like there's some new platform promising to coach us, train us, regulate us, develop us, or even replace us. Some of it is genuinely innovative with incredible potential. But a lot of it is hype, and some of it carries real risk. Yet in the midst of this AI boom, the research is clear. Many of the most valuable skills in the future of work are deeply human. Resilience, communication, critical thinking, collaboration, adaptability. So the real question isn't whether AI belongs in human development. The question is, does AI strengthen the core of human performance or slowly erode it? Today, I'm joined by Alex Frenkel, CEO of Kai.ai, to explore what's working, what's not, and what's responsible innovation actually look like in this rapidly evolving space. Alex Frenkel is a former clinical therapist and CEO of Kai.ai, a power skills development platform built to strengthen organizational effectiveness by developing the core skills that drive execution across the entire workforce. He's at the forefront of clinical and organizational AI development and passionate about optimizing human capability. Welcome to the Working Well podcast, the show that explores the critical intersection of leadership, business strategy, sustainable human performance, and how those things are defining the future of work. I'm your host, Tim Borys. Alex, welcome to the Working Well podcast, and it's amazing to have you on the show. I'm excited about this topic because, AI is everywhere these days, and I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts and insights on this important topic right now. Before we jump in, for those who might not be as familiar, please give us a little background on how you got here.
My background is in counseling. I majored in clinical psychology and actually worked and practiced as a therapist and a counselor for many years. But then I switched to high tech, and Kai is my second startup. So that's quite a significant switch. And I fell in love with combining technology with amazing people so that we can create positive impact at a much larger scale. And we started to work on Kai 5 years ago, before ChatGPT, and definitely the AI wave accelerated everything for us as well. But my background is in the one-on-one, face-to-face world initially.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you mentioned the pre-ChatGPT because AI has been around for a lot of years, and ChatGPT just sort of brought it into the mainstream with a vengeance, and now everyone knows about it. But people forget that this has been a decades-long thing that people have been working on. So the pre-ChatGPT is, you got some credentials there.
Yeah. I'm a big chess fan, and for me, AI was always connected to chess and other games, and this is part of the way I moved to tech, building AI for different games like chess. But definitely the ChatGPT, the large language models really change everything.
Yeah, and on that note, we're seeing a massive explosion of AI tools across every industry, but particularly in the therapy, coaching, which is one of my fields, and workplace development, I'll call it, learning and development. From your view, what's working now, or what's happening in this space, and what's working?
So maybe it's easier to start with what's not working. Definitely what's not working is AI replacing humans in those specific areas. I think that there is a basic need for human touch and human communication as well. And we don't see AI replacing therapists or coaches anytime soon. The thing that is working is leveraging AI to empower coaches and therapists and HR leaders so that they can reach more people and be more effective. And we see that in therapy as well. So the number one use case of large language models is for companionship and support, emotional support and coaching. But this is done many times in an unsafe, unprofessional space. And we see a huge opportunity with using AI and using the amazing capabilities to empower people so that they can be more effective and create larger impact. In many ways, we see that in other industries as well. So I really believe that lawyers will have their own AI co-pilots, and psychologists and psychiatrists and executive coaches will have their own AI companions, and those will be different, and they will be completely different from the companions that engineers and people who are coding are using. So this is what we're seeing now, specific use cases and providing co-pilots for professionals so that they can be more effective and do their work in a better way.
Yeah, and you're talking about agentic AI, where it's, you have your AI chief of staff or your AI virtual assistant and things like that. Is that what you're meant?
No. So I'm talking about AI that can do some of the things that are harder to scale for humans. So maybe I'll give concrete examples, right?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Think about the therapy setup. A therapist can see 30 patients a week, 40 patients a week, but AI always remembers, right? And this capability of AI to do check-ins, to help with psychoeducation and practice is really a game changer, right? So AI can reach out in the morning and say, "Good morning, Alex. How did you sleep last night? Let's practice together. Is now a good time?" And this is a huge force multiplier, and we see this opportunity in learning and education as well. So I see a big shift from just watching online courses or listening to lectures or even participating in webinars to learning that can happen on job in real time with concrete personal feedback. Because sometimes something happened. I just left a meeting, a one-on-one meeting, and I have some questions and some thoughts, and AI allows us to receive a response and training on the spot without waiting for the next meeting or lecture, and that's very significant.
Yeah, and technology optimist, and I think there's so many great ways that technology can benefit society. I'm also a realist and see some of the growth pains that we'll call it before we get to this ideal outcome. So can you talk a bit more about, I guess, what you're seeing companies over-promising or misusing in this space?
So we see many companies and people trying to use the large language models themselves for specific use cases. And we see many problems with that. We see that many times the models can hallucinate, they can provide bad advice, people can take wrong life decisions. And we also see the potential of people interacting with AI instead of interacting with humans. So this is definitely something that we're worried about, and we think that this is not the best use of the technology. But when it's combined with actual professionals, with this human component, we see a lot of potential as a force multiplier, right? And we see that across different domains. So we hear from our own engineers that they can be 10x or 20x more effective, but we also hear it from executive coaches who are using our platform, where they can provide support not only to top executives or directors, but they can touch many employees that they couldn't work with in the past. So that's a serious game changer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and your background's in clinical therapy, and even with the coaching side, the stakes are pretty high when you're touching on human psychology. So even with this, like a live therapist and the AI helping on the side, what do you see as the real risks in that?
Yeah, so I think it's very important to make sure that the AI is both ethical and safe. And as you mentioned, even with Kai, we started initially in the clinical space, and that made us work very, very hard to make sure that the service is safe, and we know how to raise flags and escalate to humans when more attention is needed. And we even performed clinical studies to actually show how people use AI and show the impact. And this is very unique and very exciting because the research that we've been doing at Kai is going to be published in JAMA, which is one of the best psychiatric journals, and on its way to publication in Nature, which is again a leading research publication. And we take all of that experience to the learning and development space, to the coaching space. So the rigor and safety were there way before we started to work on building power skills or helping people learn and develop. And again, I think that one of the key elements is both making sure that we protect privacy and anonymity even when working with AI. So that's very, very sensitive. And the other thing is making sure that we have actual human experts so that they are available when needed, and more attention is the right thing to do for a specific use case.
Yeah, and you had mentioned earlier that the number one use case for ChatGPT was companionship. And we've heard some horror stories around the negative outcomes and manipulation from AI and things like that. So I'm glad to hear the guardrails have been on from your side. So to flip to the positive aspect a bit more, when this AI model of human performance and AI assisting with human performance is done well, what does that future look like?
So I think that the number one impact we already see is that coaching can happen in real time. So I'll give you a few concrete examples. I'm preparing for a one-on-one meeting with one of my employees, and the AI can help me prepare for that, just reminding me what are key questions that I should be asking in this one-on-one meeting. Or I'm overwhelmed with so many things, emails and tasks and so many projects that are happening, and the AI can teach me how to use the Eisenhower metrics of what's important and urgent and the entire framework right now, so that I can manage my time and priorities in a better way. And it's happening on job, right? I don't need to go and watch a video or go to a course. I can literally say, hey, I need to go into a feedback conversation and give complicated feedback to my employee. How should I do that? Or I received feedback about my communication and people are frustrated. What can I do to improve it? And this real-time on-job is a significant game changer, because the tools are amazing, the frameworks are amazing. Teaching them in workshops is very, very effective. Definitely using them and teaching them on one-on-one coaching sessions is very effective. But the AI really makes it possible for people to learn and practice and use those tools in real time. And that's very, very significant. The other thing that we see is this capability of the AI to help me with simulations to prepare, right? So I have something that I need to perform, and the AI can help me role play the situation and give me feedback on what's happening. And this is also very unique.
Yeah, there's so many ways and benefits to this. I know even in coaching, there are platforms where it can run and debrief your coaching session. How well did you stick to the certain competencies, and map out that after a session, and how much did you talk versus the client and things like that. And these ideal outcomes are great. What do you see as the probable near term in terms of how humans work and corporate cultures, and how this gets integrated in, at least in the next 6 to 12 months?
So one thing that we see, which is very, very interesting, is that AI can be used in between meetings, in between sessions, right? Many times, even as a therapist, I would give homework or different things that people can like focus on until the next meeting, and I will like ask how was the week or like the time you spent before after a previous meeting. Sorry, but the AI can help me like do the homework and practice on daily basis so that I can come with more insights to the next meeting. And this is obviously very significant. The other thing that we see is really changing access, who gets access to coaching. So with this like hybrid framework, way more people can receive support. We saw that with the psychological world, where there is like long wait lists to even start a therapeutic or a counseling process, and people, while they wait, they can already start like learning the tools, getting familiar with the different techniques. It can be like reflection techniques or breathing exercises, or as we mentioned, like prioritization and time management skills. So that's also a huge game changer. And maybe the last thing is sometimes an organization will invest a lot in an intervention or a training process, but the AI makes it possible to keep up the work afterwards and practice and see the results after the intervention completed. So those are three areas that we see already an impact on waitlists, democratizing access, practicing in between meetings, and doing follow-up after I finished a set of meetings or a workshop.
Mm-hmm. Well, and yeah, I like that as well, because that's when the workshops that I do with learning and development in companies, one of the challenges is that companies often only budget for a one and done event. And we know, Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, people just, if the goal of running these events is to integrate learning and create behavior change over time, we know that a one and done event rarely does that. And so what are those follow-up options? And ideally companies are budgeting for that in their L&D programs, but I see that as a huge benefit of AI to connect that learning from the in-person or live workshop with the long-term development, combined with some follow-ups that are collaborative with the group.
Yeah, exactly. This is the main reason that we're partnering with executive coaches like yourself. We're not replacing your work, because I think that organizations are still going to buy those workshops and one-on-one coaching hours. I think that extra service or new product that we can offer is both reach more people. So many times, like good executive coaches will work with small groups, 16 people, 20 people, for like 5 meetings, half a day, like sessions, which are very significant. But we can help both keep the knowledge and the practice afterwards, but also increase the access significantly in a way that is not possible today in the face-to-face and one-on-one models.
Yeah, and one thing, I know my background psychology as well and human performance, and I keep seeing this trend in the clients I work with and the companies I work with. The more tech focused that society becomes, I always see the more important that genuine, deep human connection is. And so, in a perfect world, AI helps us do more of that. How do you see, I guess, what do you see as the balance we're hitting between that right now as a society?
So I definitely agree. I think that the risk is people getting more isolated and like using technology in almost an addictive way, and those are some of the bad like use cases. I think that when it's done right and in an ethical way, the AI can facilitate more human touch and human connection, right? Like this ability of the AI to ask, who am I going to speak with today? What's one good thing I can tell them? Or even this concrete encouragement of, hey, maybe it will be good to share that with Tim. He can have many thoughts on that. I think that that's very, very important. So I think that in that use cases, I would act almost as a replacement for human connections, and in the worst use case, will even tell you don't share it with others. But when it's done right, the AI will do exactly the opposite. It will ask about relationships and connections. It will encourage that, and it will ask literally like, who can you share it with? Who are you going to speak with today? How can you communicate that to your colleague? And that's very, very important.
Mm-hmm. As far as the learning and development, one of the key things that we're seeing, and there's a lot of conversation around it, is essentially outsourcing our thinking, reflection, or emotional processing to an AI, and not doing the internal work needed to actually learn those things. What do you see as the risk around that?
So I think that the risk is definitely there. I think that any learning that is passive and is not engaging doesn't result in actual development. What we're trying to do is make sure that the AI is there to mainly ask questions, facilitate the reflection process, but not replace it. So it's not like providing the answers, here is what you should do or what you should say, but literally like opening up the conversation and like asking what can be the different options, what are other ways you can do that, maybe mentioning some frameworks or tools. In many ways, this is something that we hear a lot. Like sometimes people will say, like Kai never forgets, and it can be tough, right? Because it's almost like asking me to do some effort daily to reflect, to like look at things in like more perspectives. And I think that that's very, very important. I think that if we limit the AI to just like providing tips or instructions or the end results, that is really limiting our capabilities as humans. But when the AI is used to actually facilitate thinking, help me practice, build better habits, journal more frequently, do the actual work, do the exercises, stop and reflect, like that, I believe is very, very positive.
Yeah. And one of the things that comes up as I'm hearing that too is in an ideal world, yes, the AI is drawing that information out. One of the biases of AI right now is that it tends to want to please and
Exactly.
confirm and I guess support what people are saying, even if it's not correct or if it's detrimental. How do we protect against that?
So I think that it's one of the main reasons that you cannot use a general model that is aimed to like answer and please a wide like variety of people, and you need to use specific models and specific tools that are trained differently and receive different types of examples and interactions, and definitely different type of instructions. So one thing is to make sure that the amazing tools and the content is something that is part of the AI in the service, and the AI can actually activate an intervention that we know is effective and is good. And the other one is definitely like with the guidelines and how is it supposed to act when it's acting not as a LLM that answers questions, but more of like an executive coach or a learning and development expert. And that's very, very different.
So I'm seeing several different areas. We've got the individual, like we're talking companies, the individual employees
Yeah.
that are seeking help on leadership and personal counseling, therapy type conversations on an individual basis. But then we also have the organizational learning development, layer that on top of the strategy of the company and how they're
Mm-hmm.
rolling out these models within the organization. in ways that combine with what they're already doing for learning and development. How do you see that playing out when you're talking with, CHROs and leaders like that?
So that's super, super important because every company is different, and every company in different quarters or like different stages has different areas of focus and different goals. The big advantage is that um, the AI and the service is flexible enough to be adjusted for every specific company. So I'll give you a few concrete examples. One thing we see is that sometimes a global organization will have sites in different places around the world, and the needs of the teams are different. It can be a New York site that most people work remote and they don't come to an office, or it can be an office in Macedonia that everyone is there on daily basis, and the needs are different, right? And the cultures are a bit different, and we adjust for every specific use case. But it's also very important sometimes to adjust to the organization's values and goals for a specific time frame. So what we do is we do almost an intake for the organization, and we better understand what are the goals, what are the key values, what are the main skills that are important to pay attention to, what's the differences between the different teams. So for example, we have experience with working with factory employees working in shifts. That's very, very different when we work with mid-management organizations, or even same organization, different groups are different. Engineers can be very, very different from sales employees, and the goals are very different. So we create what we call different spaces for every organization, and even for different sites or different departments in the organization. The other thing that we do is we do a lot of learning of what are other resources that are available, so that we can help and refer, right? Like Kai has this ability to say, hey, Alex, should reach out to your HR lead because they will have more resources, or there are other departments that you should be familiar that can help in those situations. So we always start with this learning phase to make sure that we adjust the service for every organization, and that's critical, because one organization can be a bank, right? They can tell us, hey, we want our employees to focus on building empathic skills because they work with customers, and customers that is frustrated and can scream on our representative. If they will have more developed empathic skills, they will be able to provide a better service. And this is very, very different when we're working with employees that are working in night shifts and have quotas and goals that are very, very different. And I think that this is a huge advantage of leveraging AI, because we can adjust to the organization and every specific employee.
And that's great. Yeah. What I'm hearing too is that a lot of it is company driven by what skills they want developed. How does employee well-being and mental health performance fit into that mix?
So we mostly focus on skill development, and I think that the important thing is that we always do an initial intake phase with every specific employee. It's an anonymous process. The AI will never ask you for your real full name or any personal information. It will just ask, how would you like me to call you? And you can choose whatever nickname you want, and then our human coaches or experts can adjust the program and the plan for every specific employee. And obviously, when we see a need for more attention, we'll be able to escalate and make sure that more resources can be provided. But we really focus, when we work with employers and companies, on skill development. That's the main thing that we see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I ask that because companies always they're going to want certain skills developed and to develop their workforce and generate results for the business. Some of the work that I do on the consulting side is around what I call the human operating system. So yes, the company wants these skills developed, but the human behind those skills might have areas they need to work on before those skills can be appropriately developed. And so how do we, as companies and leaders, understand that sometimes there's a bit more of a foundation that needs to be built, and if someone's not developing a skill in a certain way, it might not be because they don't have the capacity to develop that skill. It's that there's another blocker in the way.
So I think our origin, like background in this like emotional, psychological realm is very, very important. I think that the way we built the AI and the platform itself is very, very empathic, and like listening is a big part of it, and like creating safe space for like reflection and sharing and journaling is very, very important. And you're right. In the conversations that we have with organizations, many times they will say, hey, like we want to focus on skill development, but if there is like a need, we do want the employee to reach out to the HR, or sometimes they will receive like one-on-one meetings for like more support, and many organizations would invest heavily in that. Many times very few employees will know about those resources and will use them, like actual counseling, and a service like Kai can really make sure that when needed, the employee can actually benefit from those interventions as well.
That's great. And yeah, I've had lots of conversations with leaders about, hey, but I want to generate this result, and missing the fact that humans need to generate those results.
Yes, definitely. I think it's connected to what you said earlier about like this need for a human touch, and I think that it's also a big reason why we never activate the AI on its own. What we do in reality is that we connect every single employee that we work with the AI. The AI is 24/7 and works with voice and with text, but we always connect them to a human. And the human is not available 24/7. Our human team is available on like regular work hours, but they will always like respond and come back and be there as well. And I think that this balance is very, very important. I think that sometimes it's easier to reach out to a human coach and ask a question when I don't need to wait for like next week or to go on camera and block some time. And I know that the human is there, and it's a key factor for what makes this service unique. It's never only the AI, and it's core to our like belief.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I see some companies diving fully into the completely automated AI only.
Yeah, we see companies that integrate this AI into Slack or Microsoft Teams, and the AI is always there, and the AI can almost like spy on everything that's happening. And this is not us. Like we really believe that this personal, private, supportive, safe space is needed, even when the goal is to build skill and improve performance, which is the goal of the organization. The way to do that is with making sure that every employee is supported and has both the human touch and the safe private space to grow and learn.
You're in this section of the industry that's really focused on building that, call it ethical, responsible models, knowing that there's a whole other big part of the industry that might not be focused on that. And where do you see things going over the next year or two in terms of enterprise AI?
So I'm like yourself, I'm a big optimist, right? When we started, we saw companies that like their main goal was to create human replacement, right? Like this apocalyptic vision where people will go to a movie with their AI friend in this virtual world, and I think that this is changing, and I'm happy to see this change. And I think that the understanding that the AI shouldn't replace the human touch in humans, but can be an extension or a co-pilot or a facilitator to human interaction is very significant. And this is something that I see unavoidable. I really believe that every executive coach and every psychologist and every HR executive will have their AI co-pilot so that they can be more effective and really use their knowledge and their skills to touch more people's life in a positive way. And this is something that I see happening in many different human-centric professions.
I would agree with that. Now, with AI and technology in general, it seems like the innovation curve is just exponentially increasing. So how do you balance that innovation with the responsibility and when human well-being is involved?
So I think that special care is needed. I think that one of the reasons that we invest long term in clinical studies, in publishing research and data, in working with the American Psychological Association to make sure that we're building this ethical and safe AI. I think that that's important, and eventually, I do think that the regulator will pay attention and will help people understand what's safe and recommended and what's more risky or dangerous. We see companies do that as well. We even see OpenAI openly saying, hey, ChatGPT is not for emotional support. It's risky. It's not private. You shouldn't use it for this use case. I had a meeting earlier today with someone in Korea, and he told me that in Korea, because of stigma and lack in professionals, emotional support is something that people really miss, and many of them go to ChatGPT. And Sam Altman recently said, hey, this is not the use case, right? That's not the best way to use the OpenAI models. And I believe that it's a responsibility that every company in this domain has to really protect and make sure that they work in a ethical and safe way.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you're saying that. Yeah, because even though Sam Altman and OpenAI is saying that, people are still using it that way.
Yeah.
So when you're talking to CEOs or CHROs, what principles do you say should help guide their decisions around AI in the workplace?
I think that this basic question of is it replacing human interaction, or is it doing the opposite, encouraging human interaction, sending to communicate with people, share with others, ask for more help and more resources. I think that that's a key distinction. I also really believe that no app or AI solution on its own is good enough at this stage. And I would really ask, hey, who are the humans behind the AI? What's their experience? So that's also very, very important. And I think that the third thing that we see and makes a lot of sense is really being able to ask about the results and the impact. And I think that one of the advantages is that those new services that leverage AI have big amounts of data because many times we'll do a basic baseline setting when we start providing the service, and we can actually measure change over time. So that's also very, very unique and important because we can actually show the impact, not only the usage and how many employees use it, but what's the impact over time and how change occurs, and that's very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've mentioned clinical studies. What studies have you done in companies about the ROI of this skill development?
Yeah, so in companies, what we found is that there are two important types of data points. One is something that we hear a lot, that like a company will implement a new service or a new tool, and adoption rates are very, very low. And I think that's one of the key things that we show and see across organizations, is that many employees adopt this solution and find it very, very easy. One of the reasons is because we're working directly on messaging, and you don't need to learn like a new platform or remember to go to a portal and do something. Like this proactive on messaging is very important. So adoption, engagement, and usage is one key factor. And we see very high numbers. And the other one is literally being able to measure change over time. So even with simple things like measuring engagement or satisfaction with the workplace or burnout, many organizations will do a survey once a year or twice a year, because those are long and complicated. And the thing that we do is we make sure that those check-ins and mini assessments are happening much more frequently, and we can actually show the VPHR or the Chief Revenue Officer the change after 4 weeks, right? Usually we see an impact of 30% improvement in the baseline measurement after 4 weeks of working with the service. So that's very significant.
Well, that brings up something that I saw quite a bit at the start of COVID, I guess you would say, when all these mental health apps were coming out, and mindfulness apps and things like that, and getting deployed across
amazing
the workplace.
Apps, Headspace, Calm. Yeah. Amazing content.
Yeah, again, great content. But what I saw a lot of companies doing was, okay, we've checked that box, and hey, your boss is a toxic asshole, but here's a meditation app for you. Here's a mental health app to complain about. Like, so how are we as companies, how are we assessing how we're showing up as leaders, and what's the employee experience we're providing? So this becomes not just a Band-Aid, but actually, like you said, a leverage point, a performance multiplier.
Yeah, I think that like the good and the bad news about those apps and services is that it doesn't work. Like in many ways, it's like providing a free subscription to a gym to an employee and saying, hey, like taking care of your physical well-being is very, very important. Here is a subscription. But people don't go on their own and they don't practice. And this is exactly what happened with many of the apps. Like companies gave them, they bought like licenses, but no one was able to use them, and no one was able to use them over time. And I think that it has to be done completely different. I think that the organization being able to say, hey, like we're going to have a short webinar with a team about like better communication skills, and after that webinar, like you'll be able to work with this like AI tool to actually practice and make sure that you know how to use the skills that were presented, is very, very different. And I think that again, like just like ticking off the saying, hey, like we gave something, is not good enough.
Yeah. So if we set the stage for wrapping up here, what gives you optimism right now?
So the number one thing that gives me optimism is like seeing way more people receiving access to those types of tools and services and language. Like one of the key frustrations for me as an ex-therapist was that I could see very, very few people for a short time, and so many people could benefit, right? I have 2 teenage daughters, and I know that many of the tools and techniques would be super useful for them. I have elderly parents, and I know that they could benefit from like getting to know the tools and the language and having this safe space. And this gives me tremendous optimism, like the fact that we can touch hundreds of thousands of people's life in a positive way and help them grow and evolve and learn is super exciting to me.
Amazing. And so, well, first of all, thank you so much for sharing and giving some great insight into the work you're doing, but also how it fits into the bigger picture of this AI ecosystem that we're more readily living in these days. Where can people find you?
So the easiest is obviously LinkedIn. That's very, very easy. And we're very fortunate that Kai.ai is a very short and easy name to remember.
Yes.
So you can just go to Kai.ai and it's very easy to set up a meeting and have a conversation. And I would love to have more conversations on LinkedIn or on email. That would be perfect.
Excellent. And I'll make sure those links go in the show notes. What's one closing thought or suggestion or advice you have for people out there?
Yeah, I think that this is something I think about a lot. We see many professionals really afraid of this AI and really blocked with, is this coming to replace me? And I would really encourage people to have this open, positive mindset and actually try and use and find the good ways to leverage the technology and not to be afraid of it. I think in many ways it can be like a superpower enhancer for people that are optimistic and are positive and are willing to actually play and learn and try. And I would encourage everyone to do that.
Amazing. I concur with that. It's there's so much opportunity, and one of my personal philosophies is change is normal and it's going to happen, and with big change comes big opportunity, rather than approaching it from that fear and risk standpoint. So
yeah, we can understand the fear. But I think again, growth is happening in those uncomfortable moments, and this is definitely creating a lot of uncomfort. Many roles and many positions are really changing, and how people work on daily basis is also changing. But it comes with a great opportunity to keep the human elements and even make sure that we can create more positive impact.
Wonderful. Well, Alex, thank you so much again. And I look forward to reconnecting, and best of luck with the business and Kai.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
That wraps up another episode of the Working Well podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Now, which guests or topics would you like to see featured on the show? Message me through LinkedIn or on the contact page of timborys.com with your ideas. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tim Borys with Fresh Wellness Group, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.